The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to Filmjitsu, the podcast that wields films as deadly weapons. We are your hosts. I am Jay.
And I am Mike.
On this episode, I assign Mike the 2004 ensemble drama, Crash. After we find out whether this Best Picture winner still holds up, or now just holds a grudge, we'll count down our bottom 5 movie stereotypes. Because if Crash teaches us anything, it's that Hollywood loves a shortcut when building a character. And in honor of the recent passing of a legendary actor, we'll sadly close things out with yet another round of Kick 2 Pick 2, celebrating a career spanning everything from quiet intensity to full volume cavalry charges. But before any of that, let's roll the trailer for the film that won Hollywood's biggest prize and has been defending itself ever since, 2004's Crash.
It's the sense of touch. Any real city, you walk, you know? You brush past people, people bump into you. In LA, nobody touches you. We're always behind this metal and glass.
Why do you keep everybody a certain distance, huh? Would you start to feel something and panic?
What I need is a husband who will not just stand there.
What did you want me to do? Get us both shot? Get out of the car! Give me the keys!
I just had a gun pointed in my face. And it was my fault because I knew it was gonna happen.
Hands in plain sight, step out of the vehicle.
Daddy!
Honey, stay inside! Man, don't walk up on me! I know this man! Get back!
Mike, it's Oscar season. In a few weeks, the Academy will once again gather in formal wear and declare what it believes to be the most important film of the year. That's what got me thinking about Crash, because yes, it's one of the most debated Best Picture winners ever. And history has not been especially kind to it. But there is, of course, another layer here. We're living in a moment right now where race, policing, profiling, immigration enforcement, all of it isn't abstract. It's headline stuff now. And whether you think Crash handles those themes with nuance or with a sledgehammer, it is trying to grapple with them. And I'll be honest, after our last episode, when a listener pointed out that we probably could have contextualized Blame It on Rio a little more in light of current conversations about power, age gaps, and sexual exploitation, I thought that was fair. We're a silly podcast. We throw punches. We also talk about culture.
Right.
And sometimes the culture around a film matters as much as the film itself. So, yes, I wanted to talk about the Oscars. I wanted to talk about whether the Academy got it wrong. But I also wanted to ask, does a movie like Crash land differently in 2026 than it did in 2004? So that's the bigger frame tonight. Against this current moment and against history, what did you think of Paul Haggis's Crash?
I came away from this movie kind of angry about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, right.
About the movie, really.
Yeah, right.
Just as a friendly reminder, after this won Best Picture, the backlash was very nearly immediate because Crash beat out, of all things, Brokeback Mountain for Best Picture, which at the time was on a tear. Brokeback had won the Golden Globe, it had won the BAFTAs, it won the Critics' Choice Award. It is, in my estimation, overwhelmingly superior film. It also beat out Capote, Good Night and Good Luck, and Munich. All movies that I would say are, to my mind, head and shoulders above Crash. The start of this movie was such a groaner to me that I would have turned this off after 10 minutes if I was watching it on my own. I have to say, there's been almost no movie you've assigned me that I was looking less forward to watching than this one. This one was the one that felt the most like work to me because I knew what I was going to get.
Had you had seen it before? Is that right?
I did. Yeah, I
saw
it. Right? I saw it in 2004. And here's the credit that I'll give it, right? At the time, it did jumpstart a lot of conversations that needed to be had. And I think when I went back and I looked at some reviews of the film at the time, I was surprised at how it was critically received by critics like Roger Ebert, by critics like Peter Travers. I also looked up specifically some reviews by critics of color to see what they had to say. The reception was a little less warm than maybe it was with like the white critic class, but generally it was well received at the time for what it was trying to do. Maybe in 2004, this blunt force bullshit passed as insightful. But since then, like you kind of alluded to, we have realized that conversations about race are a lot more nuanced than just everybody is racist towards everybody else. There's no conversation in this movie about systemic racism. It's just a bunch of assholes yelling slurs at each other and trying to pass that off as social commentary. And all it succeeds in doing, to my mind, is turning victims into perpetrators and perpetrators into victims. And
100%.
We see it both in the opening and the closing of this film. What we have here is just this like tangle of intersecting plot lines that are just idiotically improbable.
Mike, did it remind you of another movie that I've assigned you?
Which one?
Love Actually.
Oh.
It is basically a serious version of Love Actually.
Oh my God. You made me watch Race Actually. Great. Awesome. Well, yeah, you kind of did. Although I'll tell you, the connections in Love Actually make so much more sense than this, because this is like astronomically improbable intersecting plot lines.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. Literally.
It literally, there is a ludicrous.
It literally is ludicrous.
Right. Yeah, maybe that's all you need to know about the movie.
Did you see any white people in there waiting an hour and 32 minutes for a plate of spaghetti? Huh? And how many cups of coffee did we get?
You don't drink coffee, and I didn't want any.
Man, that woman in there poured cup after cup to every single white person around us. But did she even ask you if you wanted any?
We didn't get any coffee that you didn't want and I didn't order, and that's evidence of racial discrimination. Did you notice that our waitress was black?
And black women don't think in stereotypes?
The movie wants us to think that racism is just a bunch of like personal moral failings. It's reductive and insincere, and it tries to sell us a message of everyone's racist towards somebody as like some kind of moral symmetry. And I think in a lot of ways what it ends up doing is reinforcing stereotypes without ever genuinely caring to examine why they exist or why they persist or who's hurt by that.
Yeah.
Maybe in 2004 that passed muster, but to a 2026 audience, we expect more. So Crash kind of wants to have its histrionic cake and eat it too. And audiences that lived through the Black Lives Matter movement, I don't think we'll let a film get away with that anymore. We expect better. We expect nuance.
Yeah, nuance is the key word here.
I think we live in a time where liberal guilt, like the kind that the Academy chose to value over a clearly superior contemplative film like Brokeback Mountain, isn't enough. And whether it meant it or not, this film reassures white audiences that everybody is flawed and therefore everyone, thus no one, is guilty. Everybody was a big meanie to somebody at some time, right? And that's the problem with Crash, is that with its moral symmetry and incurious script, it fails to meet this moment that we're in right now.
It's interesting because this movie was made rather independently. It was passed on by a number of studios, the script. The director, Paul Haggis, had written $1 Million Baby, which won Best Picture the year before.
Right.
He was sort of a hot commodity of like prestige, but he still couldn't get this thing made for a while. And then Lionsgate picked it up. But did you know it was only made for $6.5 million? That's it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell, it looks like it was shot on like 16 or something like that, like 16 millimeter film. It's very grainy. I actually really like the cinematography of this movie.
Yeah. It's a well shot film.
From a directing standpoint and from a cinematography standpoint. And I would argue even from a performance standpoint.
Yep.
This is a solid film.
I think there's no better example of that than Matt Dillon's character of the racist cop.
Yeah.
What we see from this character in a great performance by Matt Dillon is we see that he is a guy that has a father that is home and that is sick and that he's trying to get care for and that he can't get care for. And he blames this on the black woman on the telephone. Shaniqua, right, is her name.
Yeah.
And of course, and he says, of course it is, right? And he's incredibly rude to her. And when he has to go into her office later and face to face and try to sort of apologize because he needs something from her, she rebuffs him. He just doubles down on the racism, tries to give this whole speech about how his father was never racist and his father hired black people when he didn't have to.
Friend
blah,
of the
blah,
black
blah.
man.
And the woman says to him, she's like, your father sounds like a good guy. And if he was here right now, I'd probably say yes. But because unfortunately you're an asshole, basically, I can't help you. Right. And so this woman who is encountering this time and again pushes him off. And so it's almost like we're supposed to feel for this cop who is, he's a complicated and it's bullshit. What we have here in this racist cop is a scene where he rescues a black woman from a car accident that he had harassed and assaulted earlier in the film. Great performance in this moment by Thandie Newton, who is screaming, "No, not you." I mean, she's in a car that is flipped over and she's
unbelievably good.
It's a incredible performance. She is in this horrifying scene, right, of this car accident, and there's gasoline everywhere, and he's trying to get her out before they both light on fire. And she is so traumatized by what he had done to her earlier that she's fighting him off. And it is visceral. It is really something. Like it is just like
agreed.
Your breath just like clutches in your chest at her terror in this moment, right?
I agree.
And she like accepts him in this moment and he rescues her and the car is about to blow up and he kind of dives himself back in to pull her out and, putting himself at great physical risk. And it's the movie wants us to kind of think like, oh, he's not a bad guy. And like, she forget, like this was sort of this moment of reconciliation between the two of them in this thing. And that is horseshit. We don't all get to just like go home and play nice once the ICE agents take their masks off, right? Like this guy is a bad guy and he's not allowed to be off the hook by this one heroic moment.
Right. Exactly.
With the same person that he sexually assaulted earlier in the film.
But I mean, the screenwriting, it says like, hey, you know what? Yeah, he sexually assaulted her, but he saved her life. So it's perfectly fine now because this film is not anything but surface deep.
For sure.
The dialogue itself is so unbelievably stupid. The things that Ludacris says about black folks and white folks, and he's always espousing these proclamations about the way the world runs. And the thing that really bothers me is the thing that you sort of talked about, this reversal that the movie pulls. Where it's like, oh, look at these two perfectly fine black men.
Right.
And then they go and they hold up Sandra Bullock and Brendan Fraser, right? Pretty much the most loved white people probably of 2004.
Right.
And immediately you're like, wait, I now don't know where I stand. Am I supposed to be okay with these black people? Am I not supposed to be okay with these black people? It's just dunderheaded clumsiness. And what's funny is that is just a microcosm within this film because every single interaction has this kind of dunderheaded business, whether it's the Persians who own the store that is ransacked after Michael Peña's character tells the guy to buy a new door and he says, no, fuck you, fix my lock.
Michael Peña is the only character in the whole movie that's actually kind of a good dude. He is a hardworking father. Right. Yeah. And who he goes to Sandra. This is the idiotically improbable stuff. We first see him at Sandra Bullock's house where she accuses him of she wants the locks replaced again because she says he's in a gang and he's just going to sell the key to his homies, is what she says right in front of this man. So this guy suffers this indignity. Then he goes to meet this Persian store owner who accuses him of trying to scam him when really there's a communication issue.
I need to mention that the Persian's wife is Marina Sirtis, who played Deanna Troi on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, all right.
And I saw her for like half a second when you first see her, and I went, no. Talk about getting ripped out of a scene. She was great. Yeah. Everybody is great in this movie. I just want to say that.
Right. Yeah, well, what happens is that there's a miscommunication because he is telling him you need to replace the door to secure your store. He doesn't understand this. He thinks he's trying to scam him into, you know, he says, you must have a buddy that runs a door company or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And so Michael Pena just walks away from the situation. The store does get broken into that night, right?
Yeah, like right away.
And this angry Persian man wants to blame Michael Pena, so he takes the gun that he bought earlier in the film and goes hunting this guy down at his home.
Bought it from a racist guy, by the way.
Bought it from a racist guy. Yep.
Calls him a guy that flew airplanes into the towers.
Everybody is saying like world-class racist shit out loud to each other's face constantly.
William Fichtner, I think, is the one that really overdoes it. I think more than anyone. And he's such a smarmy motherfucker anyway. In movies.
As a matter of fact, Jay, that sequence with William Fichtner is a perfect encapsulation of the reductive bullshit this movie is up to.
Fucking black people, huh? What did you just say? I mean, I know all the sociological reasons why per capita 8 times more black men are incarcerated than white men. Schools are a disgrace, lack of opportunity, bias in the judicial system, all that stuff. But still, it's got to get to you. On a gut level, as a black man, they just can't keep their hands out of the cookie jar.
I would love to see a movie that wants what this movie wants, but does it in a thoughtful,
sophisticated way.
Actually examines and I'll give it away now.
You just have some real characters.
The end of the movie. Shaniqua, the woman that Matt Dillon has been awful to, the woman that has been subjected to his racist remarks over the phone and in her office.
The healthcare worker.
Yes. And we have watched her suffer this indignity and stand up for herself. And we have watched this white cop be racist to her face. And she has had to put up with this, right? What does the movie do in its final closing moments as the credits roll? An Asian driver rear ends another car in traffic.
Yeah.
And who gets out of the car? Shaniqua, who starts screaming racial remarks at the Asian driver about why don't you speak the language and blah, blah, blah. And Shaniqua becomes just as racist in the end of the film as Matt Dillon was to her. Again, as if to say, hey, look, everybody's racist to somebody. This negates anything they might have been trying to say by just letting everybody off the hook.
Meh. We're all kind of shitheads. Deal with it.
Yep.
What a fucked up message.
Yep, it really is. And in 2004, this was what the Academy decided to award Best Picture. And we have had so many conversations about Oscars so white since then. And things started to change. They opened up the Academy to more voices, to more representation. Now here we are getting ready to enter into these Academy Awards, right? And a film like Sinners broke the record for the most Oscar nominations by a single film. And I will tell you, it sure feels to me like in 2004, the Academy wouldn't have given a film like Sinners the time of day.
No, it wouldn't have.
Not even at all.
Looked at it.
And so it tells me that we're starting to at least open up our eyes to different voices, to different faces, to different perspectives, to different experiences, and including those in the conversations about what are among our best films. And whether Sinners wins or doesn't win, I don't think it will, because I do think One Battle After Another is kind of a lock, and that's a great movie for what it's trying to do. No shade there. The fact that Sinners is getting the recognition that it is getting tells me that maybe we are trending in the right direction, and that maybe something like Crash might not have been a low watermark, but
Yeah.
I think maybe we've moved in the right direction and there's hope on the horizon for what kind of voices and what kind of messages get included in our conversations about what the best film of the year is.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tonight's movie Crash isn't just about racism, it's about stereotypes. But here's the thing about stereotypes. They're what happens when the human brain decides, you know what? Nuance, it's exhausting. So we distill entire groups of people down to 2 or 3 traits and we'll just call it a day. Sometimes those traits come from actual patterns. Sometimes they come from laziness and prejudice. And sometimes they come from Paul Haggis with a stack of Oscar ballots. So in honor of Crash, a film that asks, what if everyone is both the stereotype and the lesson? I thought this would be a good bottom 5 topic. And my approach was to lean into ones Hollywood simply refuses to let die.
Yeah.
Mike, what was your approach here?
Kind of similar, actually, to that.
Oh,
in that
okay.
I did have to take some time to really grapple with what is the difference between a trope and a stereotype. And
trope, cliche.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I landed on is, a trope is a storytelling device.
Mm-hmm.
And a stereotype is more of sort of an emotional, harmful pattern.
Yeah.
It did take a little bit of deliberation to go back and forth. But yeah, I think my approach was similar to yours. It's like, what are these things that just keep popping up in films time and time and time again? And so I'm curious to hear what your number 5 is.
My number 5 is dumb, out-of-touch dads.
Oh.
I wanted to start out light.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just dive right in. But I think the few stereotypes are as culturally entrenched and casually forgiven as the clueless father.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a part of American storytelling for nearly a century. Early radio and television comedies often played with the idea that the patriarch wasn't nearly as competent as he claimed. I mean, Fred Flintstone,
right.
anyone?
Yeah.
By the time the mid-century sitcoms were airing, the cultural joke was already forming. Dad may be the head of the household, but mom runs the house.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Leave It to Beaver, and even The Andy Griffith Show. Cinema amplified it in the 80s, big time. And Back to the Future, directed by Robert Zemeckis. George McFly is timid and ineffectual and socially paralyzed. So much so that it requires literal time travel for him to grow a spine. The 1980s suburban boom turned this into a defining trait. John Hughes was instrumental here. As a writer and director of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he gave us a father so oblivious, he kind of almost nearly assists his son's deception.
Right.
Hughes also wrote Home Alone and National Lampoon's Vacation, both of which feature fathers who are distracted, overconfident, and hilariously incompetent. The trope persists into the 90s. Mrs. Doubtfire, one of your favorites. Robin Williams' character is loving but emotionally adolescent and irresponsible. And as you've pointed out, he's pretty much an actual criminal and possibly psychotic.
Yes, terrifying. Terrifyingly psychotic. Terrifying.
In The Santa Claus, Tim Allen's character begins as a disengaged career dad who must be magically rehabilitated, which is another one of your favorites.
Yep.
Becoming a better dad through magic is always one of your...
Liar, liar, I'm looking at you, right?
More recently, comedies like Daddy's Home turn paternal insecurity into the entire joke structure.
Mm-hmm.
The stereotype normalized the idea that fathers are emotionally incompetent by default.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's played for laughs, it quietly lowers expectations, both for male responsibility and any attempts that try to subvert patriarchy being undermined.
We have a culture where our film and television has asked us to expect so little out of fathers that the men that have been raised in that culture have adopted that and have started to act as though nothing should be expected of them. And this is why the patriarchy hurts everybody. My number 5, I've talked about this before, And so I wanted to put it at the back of my list, but really take the opportunity to articulate my feelings around the stereotype, because I don't know that I've always, in the moment that it's come up, been able to really kind of convey what I think about it. But
this is your chance.
It is, right. I think you know where I'm going. This is my stereotype of movies with people that have dementia that are scary or dangerous.
For sure.
It's very personal to me. In the work that I do, and a lot of how I dedicate my life is exactly this thing. And I have hundreds of people over the course of my professional career that I have come to know and love that suffer dementia. In fact, I feel so strongly enough about this topic that I'm actually putting together a lecture on the depiction of dementia in media. Yeah, that's something that I'm working on. And the short version of that is this. Those portrayals can be genuinely harmful, just like any negative stereotype. Dementia is a symptom that is tied to over 100 different diseases, and the people living with it are among the most vulnerable in our communities who need empathy, not exploitation. And so when dementia gets mined for horror, whether by comparing it to violent psychosis or even in some cases demonic possession, it reinforces fear around something that's already really widely misunderstood. That's kind of my big issue. And I don't really buy sometimes where a movie will try to wiggle out of it by like, well, it wasn't actually dementia in the end. Like, for example, in The Taking of Deborah Logan. Because for most of the movie, what audiences are asked to react to, the confusion, the memory loss, the personality changes, closely mirrors real dementia. So when that supernatural twist comes at the end, it doesn't undo 2 hours of coding dementia-like behavior as horror. The plot might change, but the stigma the audience absorbs doesn't. Representation matters. And I think it's worth being thoughtful about where that fear is coming from and who gets hurt in that crossfire.
Fair enough. Mike, it's tough for me because I really like The Taking of Deborah Logan as a film. And I really, really liked The Visit from M. Night Shyamalan, which again is another one, right? And they're two, for me, very entertaining films. They're taking something scary and they're making horror of it. But I think we do that with a lot of different stuff. And I think that your emotional connection to this allows us to see through the entertainment value of it into something that's deeply damaging. Potentially. And it's funny. I was going to joke with you that your number 5 was going to be Nurse Ratched, the bad nurse.
Healthcare workers.
You've talked about how damaging that was to an entire industry.
Yep. We still in senior living suffer the damage of that one incredibly potent performance.
Right. So the trouble here is, and for someone like me, is I enjoyed a film. I like something that I watched, but now I have to kind of grapple with the fact that might have a negative effect on people. And how do I do that? That is an extremely complicated and difficult thing to talk about. And I don't think we have time for it here. We could probably do an entire show on it were we a different podcast.
I think that's why these examinations and conversations matter, right? Because two things can be true at the same time. The Taking of Deborah Logan.
Tell Crash.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. The Taking of Deborah Logan, for example, which I know we've talked about before, is, you are not wrong, extremely effective at doing what it is trying to do. It's a scary, scary, scary film. And the reality is that in your life out in the world, you are very unlikely to come across somebody's possessed grandmother, but you are really likely to come across somebody with dementia, right? There are 6 million Americans with an Alzheimer's diagnosis right now. We are expecting that number to double in the coming decades. This is here. And we're all going to have to realize that these stereotypes are real people, and how we mine them for scares makes a difference in how we think about people who suffer from these diseases.
Well said, Mike. You really give me a lot to think about. I think you're probably giving our listeners a lot to think about with that. My number 4 isn't going to be nearly as mind expanding, I don't think.
Thank goodness.
And that is the completely venal media tycoon.
Richard T. Business, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Hollywood has always loved portraying itself and media in general as morally bankrupt.
Yeah.
Especially when it can pin that corruption on a single monster in a corner office.
Uh-huh.
Look no further than what many consider the greatest film ever made, Citizen Kane, directed by Orson Welles. Charles Foster Kane isn't merely wealthy, he's a media empire incarnate.
Mm-hmm.
His newspapers manufacture public opinion, shape elections, and blur the line between truth and ego.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's difficult to watch Kane today without feeling the modern resonance.
Yeah.
We live in an era where media ownership, platform control, and political power are deeply intertwined, where billionaires can shape narratives at scale and bend entire information ecosystems toward a personal ideology. Kane no longer feels like satire. He feels like prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
By the late 20th century, the venal tycoon becomes a caricature.
Mm-hmm.
In The Player, directed by Robert Altman, studio executives are morally vacant climbers, willing to bury crimes to protect a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Swimming with Sharks, starring Kevin Spacey as just an absolute horror,
Mm-hmm.
turns Hollywood into like a Darwinian abuse machine.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time Tropical Thunder shows up, the executive is cocaine-fueled excess in a tracksuit.
Mm-hmm.
Capitalism reduced to a punchline. And then the villain evolves. In Free Guy,
Mm-hmm.
the media tyrant is no longer a cigar-chomping mogul, but a tech bro CEO hoarding code. The tycoon now owns platforms rather than pressers.
Mm.
The trope persists because it's satisfying. And much like Crash, it reduces systemic complexity to interpersonal morality plays. Boom. Yeah, I rest my case. The media tycoon, my number 4.
It's funny. There are so many great examples, and Citizen Kane is, you're right, just
Oh my
it's
God.
the top of the mountain.
Lego movie?
For sure. But when I think of kind of that big evil business tycoon, my brain always goes to where we find ourselves time and again on this podcast, right back here.
We'll get Ed Leftick up here to look over these figures. Oh, retooling, that's a great excuse. Retooling, I'll retool you!
Mr. Shirley, Merry Christmas.
Who's that?
It's me, Clark Griswold.
What do you want?
My wife and I came up with a little something special. It's a gift.
Put it over there with the others, Greaseball.
Christmas Vacation is the perfect example. Well said.
It always is. Well, Jay, my number 4, in Nathan Rabin's review of Elizabethtown for the AV Club in 2007, he coined the term manic pixie dream girl.
Oh, yeah.
In his review, Rabin says, the manic pixie dream girl exists solely in the fevered imagination of sensitive writer-directors to teach broodingly soulful young men to embrace life and its infinite mysteries and adventures.
Yeah, this was close to my list. I almost chose this. Yeah.
The manic pixie dream girl, right? The purest examples are probably Natalie Portman in Garden State and Kate Hudson as Penny Lane in Almost Famous.
Oh,
but
really?
I think so.
I was thinking Kate Winslet in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or Mary Elizabeth Winstead in Scott Pilgrim. Those are the ones that immediately came to my mind. So you had a different list.
Also fair examples.
We could have both done it.
I think so. And I think you can go back to even before the term was coined. I think that Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's is a manic pixie dream girl, if you really stop and think about it.
Oh my God. I think Annie Hall is. Holy crap.
I think you could get there.
Whoa.
And my problem is the manic pixie dream girl's humanity is secondary to what she does for the male lead. She serves as this emotional infrastructure that shows up exactly when the male lead needs a spark, delivers just enough chaos or charm to jumpstart his life, and the movie never asks what any of that costs her. She's not written as a real person. She's just written as a turning point for some doofus.
Yeah.
That for me is not enough. I want female characters to have depth and agency, and we consider what their role, how it affects them, how it costs them, that they are fully.
You want Lady
humans.
Bird.
Yeah, I want full human beings in my characters. I don't think that's asking too much. So I think the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, as much as that's just a brilliant turn of phrase, I think it is a stereotype that we could move on from.
I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Yeah, probably not.
Oof. My number 3 has a long sort of build up to it, right? But it's the goofy character who redeems himself through explosive self-sacrifice.
Oh, okay.
Right. Cinema has long had a formula for its goofy or its morally compromised characters, the socially awkward, the unstable, or the comic relief misfits that earn redemption by just dying spectacularly. This redemptive self-sacrifice has deep roots in war films and westerns, where honor is often secured through death. By the blockbuster era, the trope evolved. The hardened soldier gave way to the eccentric outsider. The sacrificial lamb became comic relief. Unstable, awkward, socially sidelined. Then comes Roland Emmerich, who's probably the high priest of explosive redemption. In Independence Day, Randy Quaid's conspiracy-spouting crop duster transforms from town embarrassment into patriotic martyr by flying into an alien superweapon. Emmerich revisits the formula in Moonfall, where the eccentric outsider proves his worth through obliteration. In Emmerich's worlds, spectacle is absolution. The trope migrates into other genres. In The Suicide Squad, Polka Dot Man's entire emotional arc culminates in a brief moment of affirmation before annihilation. Even glossy disaster fare like Armageddon reframes roughneck oddballs as earth-saving martyrs. Self-sacrifice becomes shorthand for validation.
Yep.
The subtext is pretty unsettling. If you're unstable, or you're mocked, or you're socially strange, overweight, or you're coded as lesser, your usefulness may lie in death. Redemption is not integration. It's just, I don't know, combustion. So that is my number 3.
That's a good one. The thing I always think of is you could have gone all day trying to come up with examples and probably not ever thought of the one that I think of immediately for this.
Yours? Yeah.
Child's Play 3.
Definitely not.
Where the nerdy ROTC guy who has spent his whole movie getting picked on and tormented by all the cooler ROTC guys as if that was a thing, throws himself on a grenade that Chucky lobs at Andy to save everybody in the end.
Oh, see? Perfect example. Right?
I am occupying space in my brain with that. Yeah.
I find it incredible that Tim Robbins lived to see the end credits of Howard the Duck.
I can't believe that any of us lived to see the end credits of Howard the Duck. My number 3 is the dead wife stereotype. What you see over and over and over again is a female character who exists just long enough to be killed off so the male protagonist can have the pain and motivation for whatever comes next. Her life, her goals, her full humanity are secondary if they're there at all. Death wish, I'm looking at you. The dead wife's primary function is to launch someone else's emotional story. Now, people die in movies all the time. That's storytelling. The difference is scale and pattern. One dead spouse is a plot device. When it keeps happening over and over and over again to the same group of people, it starts functioning as stereotype. It subtly teaches the audience that the wife's inner life matters less than what her death does for the male character. It's a storytelling habit that flattens women into emotional props, and I'm just kind of over it.
I got really tired, not of this, which I think isn't a really good pickup, and I didn't think of it, But the one, and I didn't think of this either, but I complain about it all the time to my kids.
Yeah.
Every time I watch a children's film, dead parents.
Dead parents.
What's interesting, though, is that with something like Neverending Story, the woman died, but the guy is still there and he's drinking the goddamn raw egg and orange juice.
Yeah.
So I guess she died for really nothing.
Yeah. How many movies start with a bunch of kids in a station wagon with one parent moving to a new house because some other parent is dead, right? Like
Asteroid City?
Casper? Like it's all of these things, right?
Jesus Christ. I didn't realize like how off the top of my head some of these examples would come as we were chatting.
Yeah.
That means we're on the right path.
I think so.
Oh, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be shocked if my number 2 isn't your number 2 and that my number 1 isn't your number 1, although I left a number 1 off my plate because I thought you might do it.
Okay.
My number 2 is the mystical indigenous or black guide.
Right.
The pattern spans genres and decades.
Yep.
It's been with cinema since the early studio era. In 1921's The Sheik, starring Rudolph Valentino. This will be the one time we ever mention that name on this show. The exotic East is romanticized as sensual, mysterious, and spiritually charged. In 1932's Tarzan the Ape Man, indigenous characters are framed as closer to nature and instinct, spiritually intuitive in ways the Western world is not. This shit lives on today.
Mm-hmm.
In The Lion King? How about that? Rafiki, voiced by Robert Guillaume, is introduced as eccentric and spiritually attuned and clearly coded as the mystical other who nudges Simba toward destiny. And then, in the weirdest example possible, The Legend of Bagger Vance, directed by fucking Robert Redford, Will Smith plays a near supernatural guide whose function is to restore a white golfer's spiritual equilibrium.
I mean, if Will Smith won't think of the white golfer, who will? Those poor put upon white golfers. Jesus. You know the one I always think of for this, Jay, is I think of Taylor from Poltergeist.
Oh my God.
Right?
No, that's Poltergeist 2. That's right. Yeah,
Yep.
Taylor's in Poltergeist 2. That's a great example. I was thinking of The Matrix. The Oracle. This is why, and you know how much I love this guy, adaptations of Stephen King make such revealing American case studies. In 1994's Shawshank Redemption, directed by Frank Darabont, Morgan Freeman's Red. He's not magical, but he's narratively elevated into the wise, moral narrator framing Andy's ascent.
Well, and what's interesting is in the novel, he's an Irish guy.
He's a white dude.
That's where red comes from, is that red is his hair. He's this white guy with red hair. But in the film, when they cast Morgan Freeman and they sort of calibrate that performance.
That's correct.
To be a different thing. And we see examples of that all over King's work, right? I mean, there's Mother Abigail.
That's what I was going to say.
Lots of
and
them.
John Coffey from The Green Mile.
That's right.
Also by Darabont. So these characters are often dignified and beloved, but that's what makes the trope tricky. But structurally, their transcendence frequently serves someone else's growth. Sound familiar, Mike? They become vessels of wisdom, suffering, or spiritual authority rather than the narrative center of agency.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot. It's heavy, but that is my number 2.
Yep.
The mystical guide.
Yeah, I thought about that. I actually was sort of hoping that it would be on your list because I decided to bump it off because I think that one is so pervasive. Like, it's not quite as insidious as some of these others that you kind of have to stop and think. Like when you see the magical guide in a film, you're like, oh God, there it is again. You know, that it's just so like blatant when it shows up that you're like, it's almost like,
but it's
kind of the perfect
service to, it's the same as the wife.
For sure. Yep.
You know, it's the same. We're hitting the same notes over and over again. These stereotypes are designed for who?
Yeah. Right.
Right. The persecuted white guy that can't enjoy Star Wars anymore because Asians are in it.
My number 2 is what I am calling inspiration porn. This is when a character is sick or disabled and exists mainly to inspire able-bodied characters or the audience into living a full, complex life of their own, right?
Holy shit.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't even know. You're going to have to give me some examples because I'm not coming up with anything offhand.
Sure. Simon Birch, regarding Henry. I think the long shadow that Rain Man cast over the public's understanding of autism. Right.
Okay.
Even the Book of Henry that we covered on this show, where we had a kid that suddenly died of, this disease, and his entire existence was about inspiring the people that are left behind. Right. In that case, right. These people are never given full fleshed out lives of their own. And the red flag for me is when a disabled character's humanity matters less than the emotional journey they provide for somebody else. That's my number 2. Don't just kill off a kid so that mom can learn a lesson.
Man, that's Awakenings.
Yeah, it's Awakenings. There's a lot of films. It's a lot of films.
Good call. I wouldn't have thought of it. That's a great one. We're down to my number 1, the blonde bimbo. Few stereotypes in cinema have been as persistent or as profitable as the dumb blonde. It predates the multiplex era and finds one of its earliest and most iconic embodiments in, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
In films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Monroe played the breathy, glamorous bombshell, often sharper than she appeared, yet flattened by studio marketing into a consumable fantasy.
Yep.
Hollywood didn't just cast Monroe, it manufactured her.
Right.
And then it replicated her. Actresses like Jane Mansfield and Mamie Van Doren were marketed as interchangeable blonde bombshells, proof that the persona had become scalable. The stereotype wasn't just a character archetype, it was a business model. Oh my God. And then comes Alfred Hitchcock, and things become even more revealing. Hitchcock's fixation on icy, controlled blondes wasn't accidental. In Vertigo, the entire plot revolves around a man reconstructing a woman into his idealized blonde fantasy. The film is less about romance than about male projection and control. The template endured through decades of teen comedies and genre films, from Weird Science to Chopping Mall, when blonde femininity was coded as decorative, sexual, and intellectually suspect.
Yeah, basically the entire slasher movement of the 1980s.
I would just say the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s for sure, but you can find these all over slasher films.
Yep. Modern cinema refined rather than retired it. In The Wolf of Wall Street, directed by Martin Scorsese, Margot Robbie's Naomi is introduced through spectacle and sexual framing. Robbie's Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad is fetishized chaos before partial reclamation in Birds of Prey, where she is 100% still ogled. All this makes Barbie such an intriguing counterstroke. Robbie turns the projection back on the audience, interrogating the expectation that beauty equals emptiness. And yet, even now, the industry circles back. Full fucking circle. Blonde, starring Ana de Armas, retells Monroe's life in a way many critics found voyeuristic and hypersexualized. Even in critique, the camera lingers. That's the durability of the trope. It doesn't disappear. It just changes repackaging.
We could probably just go all day rattling off so many examples of this, because you're right. It's everywhere. We have apparently just zero interest in doing away with it. My number 1 is the sassy gay friend stereotype.
Yeah.
Think Christian in Clueless or Stanford in Sex and the City. And I think what makes this stereotype so problematic is how it packages queerness as safe, non-threatening entertainment for straight audiences. These characters are permitted to exist precisely because they're desexualized, non-competitive, and emotionally useful to the main character.
Sure, yeah. But I would also say that even when there isn't necessarily hetero main character at the center, movies like The Birdcage do the same fucking work for the audience.
Yeah, right. And now listen, I can take the view that maybe this stereotype was a necessary waypoint to more authentic characters, right?
Right. Kind of like Crash was a clumsy first step toward real conversation.
Sure. We didn't have openly gay characters in mainstream films for a long time. And so in some ways, the Christians and the Stanfords became queer icons who paved the way for something better. Maybe we don't get a Moonlight or a Brokeback Mountain without them. So I can appreciate that. But I think in 2026, the sassy gay best friend does more harm than good, because the thing that really bothers me is how this stereotype quietly sets boundaries around which queer characters are considered acceptable, right? Stylish, witty, outgoing, deferential to the straight character. And that might look like inclusion, but it's really a form of containment that I think rewards conformity and sidelines more complex or authentic queer identities. And so the stereotype bothers me enough to be number one. And I do think that we are experiencing kind of a genuinely great moment in queer cinema with things like Moonlight. We are starting to have these stories, right? Give me a Brokeback Mountain any day instead of one of these sassy gay comedic foils in a rom-com. I have no use for that. I want to hear real stories about real complex people. And I do feel like we are getting more of that in our mainstream media. And maybe that's because we needed these gay stereotypes to get us there. But boy, am I glad that we're going to retire them, or at least I hope that we do. Jason, here we are again, unfortunately doing a Pick Two, Kick Two to commemorate the passing of a Hollywood legend.
No, I can't believe it.
A guy that seems like he has always been in movies.
And always would be, right? Just in perpetuity, we would just keep seeing him show up. Yeah.
Yep. A man just he seems sort of a constant in every era of Hollywood, it seems like.
It's true.
We're talking, of course, about the passing of Robert Duvall. One of just like the most consistently great performers out there in every genre you can think of. He made great films in almost every genre.
And
it was hard for us.
Too.
Yeah, we had a hard time narrowing down which four we wanted to highlight.
For sure.
But we're going to take a swing at it as a way to commemorate his work. And so the four films that we have come up with for our Pick Two, Kick Two are Apocalypse Now, The Godfather, The Apostle, and 1988's Colors.
And with Sean Penn.
With Sean Penn. Yeah. And I think so. Yeah. For me, obviously Colors feels like a little bit of an outsider compared to major American classics like Apocalypse Now and The Godfather. But I think it represents that like everybody kind of has that random Robert Duvall role that they love.
Yeah, I think it's just the versatility. He was extremely good in Colors. And one of the things about him, he always lent an air of authenticity to whatever he was doing. And so you fully believed that he was the character. He would disappear into the skin of the character that he was portraying. I would go as far to say that without Sean Penn's experience with him in Colors, I don't think we would have gotten the Sean Penn we got in One Battle After Another.
I mean, fair, right?
I think that there was some level of teacher and student happening there. I could see Robert Duvall playing that part that was in One Battle After Another.
Yeah, right? A younger Robert Duvall, for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's kind of the tough, hard guy role that he did play in Colors. I think that this is a difficult thing to do because Duvall has what are probably considered two of the greatest films of all time.
Of course, it seems that the obvious ones that we would need to keep here are Apocalypse Now and The Godfather. It seems, but here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to do. I think The Apostle is maybe the best showcase of what Robert Duvall can be.
Exactly.
And I can't imagine where, if we're really going to honor the man and his body of work, I need to keep The Apostle.
You got to keep one where he directed and he acted and he was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah, right. I just all the things.
Yeah. The fact that he directed it too. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hold on to Apostle.
Yep.
I'm going to kick Godfather.
So I am too, and here's why. I don't want to say it out loud.
You don't like it that much?
No, I love it. What I don't want to say out loud, what I don't want to put into the universe is that someday we're going to have to do a pick two, kick two for Al Pacino.
No.
And so when that day comes,
we're not doing it.
We will keep The Godfather in our
we'll
lives.
Have to contend with that.
So we're talking about Robert Duvall, and I don't want to overshadow that, right? I'm going to keep Apocalypse Now because there is almost nothing less iconic in cinema than I love the smell of napalm in the morning, right?
Yeah.
That's
simply put.
That's
you're
it.
right.
That's it. So it's got to be
and he's
for
not
me.
he's not even a major part of the film, but he's the thing that everybody thinks of. Right?
Yes, he represents so much of what that film is about. People say that line and don't even know where it comes from. So for me, it's going to be Apocalypse Now, and it's going to be The Apostle. And that means we're going to let colors go. But I mean, really, we had to talk about things like Network and The Conversation. And I mean, just the man's career was
the fact that he played
incredible.
Boo Radley.
Boo Radley. Yeah. So many things. The Judge late in his career, continuing to be nominated for his work, right? So many things. But I think for me, I'm going to keep The Apostle and I'm going to keep Apocalypse Now. And we're going to say a sad, fond farewell and thank you to just one of the most solid Hollywood actors that we have ever had. Jason, as we come to the end of the episode, this is the part where we would reveal what I would give to you for our next episode. But we're not doing quite that this time because it's time to, I don't know, pay the dealer. What do we call this?
Yeah, pay the piper.
Yeah, whatever it is,
exactly.
Right? Because last year we did our dueling double bill segments where we awarded points for who had the best dueling double bill and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And that ended in a tie.
Yeah.
And we decided, because nobody won, everybody loses. This is Filmjitsu. And so rather than you or I having to watch a double bill, we both were going to have to watch a double bill, and we put it up to a vote. You, through the wonders of your technological wizardry that I do not understand, put very complicated polls up on our website where people could vote about which double bill they wanted us to watch. There were lots and lots and lots of choices.
Yes, so many.
But our listeners, who may be bastards, it turns out,
apparently,
they outsmarted us in our own poll because, despite all the options, you ended up with the most votes for Tammy and the T-Rex and Howard the Duck. And I thought I was going to have my own dueling double bills to have to watch. But no, not our listeners. They won't stand for that. Because through the wonders of this poll, I also got stuck with Tammy and the T-Rex. Paired, however, this time with Alien from LA, where I think Kathy Ireland, Underground?
Yes, Kathy Ireland. Yeah,
Good
Underground.
Lord.
Yep, something like that. I'm pretty sure that's our first Albert Pyan film.
It is.
So this is a big deal for us.
It is a big deal. It is a big deal.
It's the guy that did Cyborg. So
that's right.
Vicious Lips.
I could talk about Cyborg all day.
I'm sure you could, but you're not going to be able to because you're going to have to talk about Alien from LA with Kathy Ireland.
Okay, but what if I watch Alien from LA and Cyborg instead of Tammy and the T? You're not going to let me do that, are you?
No, because the listeners have spoken.
They gave us both Tammy and the T-Rex. And so rather than having two separate episodes, we've decided to Voltron this nightmare together into one robot of terror. And we are going to watch Tammy and the T-Rex, and then report back in independently on both Howard the Duck and Alien from LA. in one
Yes.
great big dueling double bill blockbuster clusterfuck of an episode. That's what's happening.
I feel as though we may actually have an episode without a bottom five.
But this episode is bursting at the seams. I don't know that we're going to be able to do one. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I'll rattle off something stupid that you didn't have time for or ask for. That's what I offer here at Filmjitsu. I don't do much, Jason, but I do make your day harder. So this is exciting in its own terrifying way. I'm looking forward to our next episode, as bananas as it's going to be. I hope you are too. And more than all that, I hope that our listeners will come back and join us. And until then, we have been your hosts. I am Mike.
And I am unfortunately Jay.
We'll see you next time.
Stalno mislim na te, hoću znat sve kate, vježbat ću sate i sate. Karate, vježbat ću dok zadnji mi kjaj zostane izađe.
This is such a heavy episode. Like, we're just going to have to be like, maybe we shouldn't do pick two, kick two. We should just be like, and now, dick jokes. Like, I don't know.